We are living in a time of many challenges. All of our lives are subject to sudden and radical change. Consider the fires in the past year in California and all the climate disasters globally, and the tens of thousands of lives affected by the changes in our job markets and the coming influence of artificial intelligence. We all need to be prepared and know how to handle change. However, I'm concerned that our communities are struggling to heal. As a realtor, I have been trying to help the fire victims where I can, but this is also exposes me to many desperate situations. There's a huge number of people who remain defeated and stuck and unprepared to lift themselves up. Many who have been affected by unforeseen change are unable to move on into their new day. Many feel their lives have already ended. I want so much for them. Most of all, I want them to experience their new day. There is always a new day. My life has been an adventure through good and bad, high ups and low downs. I've suffered the full range of defeatist, depressing self-doubt and debilitating emotions which were controlling my life. I battled with drug addiction and other destructive things trying to mask my pain. I had a very challenging beginning with a mother who repeatedly called me a monster, often when I was very, very young, and abused me off and on all my life until she died at 83. I had to run away when I was 12 after she tried to kill me with a butcher knife. I had to start thinking and acting like an adult when I was about 10 for survival. And I was absolutely sure that I knew everything about life. Laughing out loud for sure now. I realized I had to depend on myself. I was on my own island. I had a huge chip on my shoulder. I felt the world owed me something. I didn't know where to turn or how to change myself, but I knew I had to change. I had to fight hard for my survival, and I forgave my mother many times. It was not easy, and it just kept coming back up in my life. But I have finally forgiven her completely. It wasn't her fault. Mental illness can be a bitch. Now I live for each new day. I work to retrain my brain and to eliminate limiting beliefs imprinted on my subconscious. I also work to open my heart. This is work that continues as I speak. I've had a successful career, and well, you might say I've had several successful careers because I've had to start over many times. And I love myself and I love my life. But I couldn't say that years ago. How many of you have had to set your feelings aside and just do what needed to be done, like facing an enemy or any other major challenge? I had to find a way that I could be more positive and productive. I searched and searched. Finally, I stumbled upon a small book about 4 decades ago, which helped me. The simplicity of how I could make small changes just hit home instantly, and it has stuck with me through the decades. It was not easy for me to get out of bed at first, and the dishes didn't wash themselves. But I started by just doing my best to be active just a few minutes a day. It was work. It was literally physical, like getting up when the worst jet lag was knocking me back down. I started with only a couple minutes a day, consciously setting my debilitating feelings aside by doing something good and effective, like washing the dishes. With practice, slowly I found that my negative feelings gave way to new positive ones. My behaviors were influencing my feelings for the better. So I knew that I had to continue to do the work. I was learning to change my state, and it was not easy at first. I had to learn to live for a new day. Slowly, minutes of productivity turned into more and more minutes. The budding, forward-looking feelings felt good. I became more energetic. I worked on believing in myself. I worked on valuing my strengths, and I wrote a new resume for myself. I recognized that the negative images of myself set in childhood were deep in my subconscious, and I had to learn how to rebuild my core beliefs. I had to find out how to reach my subconscious with new beneficial beliefs, which is not a simple thing to do. With work, my life slowly began to blossom with each new day. There can be no miracle unless we work to create it. Each new day is a miracle, and with each new day, we can choose to live in gratitude and forgiveness. Don't you want to set your own sails in life? Don't you want to live for your new day? I believe that we all have a core desire to sail our own special course in life. I took charge of mine, and the peace of mind is priceless. I love adventure and nature, and I had the great life experience, which I loved, dearly loved, living and sailing on a 57-foot catamaran for several years. While the ocean is often welcoming and such a beautiful place, it can also explode in anger and become directed at annihilating you, the boat, and the crew. On my watches in major storms, which often raged for days, I had to do the job of keeping the vessel upright and on course as I stood alone against the howling winds as gigantic waves tossed us about violently. I was nearly paralyzed with fear. Even knowing where I was, I felt lost as I was often hundreds, even thousands of miles from shore in the middle of that vast unknown. The worst part was that when I got off my watch, I had to go to sleep to prepare for my next watch. Impossible when you are that scared. I had to sleep, and so I did. I had been practicing setting my feelings aside and doing what needed to be done. These skills had helped me change my feelings, attitude, and life for the better, and enabled me to sleep as the boat continued to be tossed about, crashing through the massive waves. It has been a process and a practice that has seen me through many lift myself off the floor moments. It has worked every time. And with time, my psyche and life has gotten better with each start over moment. I didn't know if this was going to work when I started. However, now I am finally able to live in my new day. realize my purpose, and live my passion. Life can change in an instant. However, if I could learn to retrain, no, if I could learn to retrain my brain to set my dark feelings aside long enough to fill myself up with useful ones, you can as well. No, it is not easy. You need to be committed to take charge of your life's destination and chart your own special course. Do the work. It is a practice that you can learn. The reward can be a new life. How many of you would love to just sail all over the world? Remember that boat that I mentioned earlier? I love that boat. And after years of serving as my home, and I logging 44,000 sea miles throughout the Pacific as the celestial navigator, all that I owned and loved was on board. But I left because my intuition was telling me it was becoming too much of a party boat and becoming less and less safe. My life partner was drinking too much, and I intended to come back, but I hadn't been back to the USA in over 4 years. And so I left, and I didn't go back. About a year later, the boat and all souls on board were lost in a heavy storm. I will never know what really happened. The grief was overwhelming. I took the time to grieve, head under the covers, and after a period of just letting it all out, I got up and got on with life, one step at a time. I took another evaluation of what I wanted in my future life. I again reviewed and updated my resume, and I suggest we all do that as often as possible. I practiced meditations and incantation and lifted myself off the floor. I then went after my next goal. I encourage all of you to explore the practice of taking control of your feelings. Begin practicing how to switch your state from the negative to the positive on demand. Set your new ambitious goals and strive daily to attain them. Find things that give you good feelings. Keep building on that. Celebrate the small changes. And know that if not constantly stimulated, feelings will fade. Yes, even the darkest, most vivid ones. Work on focusing on what is good. We all have something to be grateful for, even if it is very little. Allow yourself to dream about good things. What you focus on is what you will manifest. The more you focus on good things, the less you will focus on the bad things. And yes, it is work. It is not instant. You must build new muscles around your feelings and beliefs. You can gain control over your feelings and your life with practice. I believe in you, and I know from experience, a few adjustments to your sail set can cause wonderful feelings and new grateful experiences to come to you. It will be kind of like stepping into a new day. There's always a new day. Take responsibility to set your own sail on your own special course in life, despite any contrary feelings. Be resolved to recognize your strengths and eliminate your limiting beliefs. Do things you can be proud of. Live the life you want to live. Do what you want to do. This is all available to you. I know there is a new day because I reached out for it and sailed into it. And there have been many more beautiful new days. I look forward to each tomorrow and each new day. You too can experience your new day and know there is always a new day. Live for a new day. Thank you.